Have you heard of someone who can kill while they're asleep? I'm telling you about a guy named Parks. He's 23, married, and has a little daughter. He was struggling with insomnia. One night, after falling asleep on the couch around 1:30 a.m., he got up in his sleep, started the car, and drove to his in-laws' house. He went inside, then to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, went to his uncle and aunt's room, killed his aunt, and strangled his uncle. This is just one example of what can happen because of insomnia. So, why is sleep important? And how should we sleep? Another big question is, why do we even sleep? Most of us never really learn about its benefits until I read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I learned a ton of important stuff about sleep, and you'll be shocked by all the ideas I'm about to share. Like, what's the connection between how you sleep in a hotel and how animals sleep? How does jet lag mess with your sleep? Why do you sometimes wake up just minutes before your alarm? Why does coffee affect you but not your friend? Is it true that sleep can now be prescribed as medicine? And most importantly, how sleeping the right way can protect you from a bunch of serious illnesses. There's so much more that can change your life, just like it changed mine and so many others. Welcome, my friend, to a new episode and a new book of the Bookish program. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and let's talk about why sleep is so important and why we actually need it. Our world is huge and full of differences, but everyone agrees on one thing. We need to sleep 8 hours a day. Health organizations, national institutions, doctors, and everyone in the medical field all say the same thing. Here's a question. If you're already sleeping 8 hours, you can turn off the video now. Just kidding. But seriously, if you're hitting that 8-hour mark, you're in the safe zone. If not, open your ears and mind, because neither I nor a third of young people my age or around my age are getting enough sleep. Unfortunately, a lot of young people these days are dealing with chronic illnesses at a really early age, like heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's, among other things, God forbid, my dear friend. So, the question is, why is it happening to this particular group? Mostly, where do they spend their time? Either at university or at work. And when they're done, where do they go? They head to the coffee shop, and some of them even have more than one cup during work hours in a single day. They might consume more caffeine than usual. This is the coffee that Matthew, the author of this book, talked about. The downside is that caffeine takes about 5 to 7 hours, sometimes even longer, to break down, so the idea of getting a natural, peaceful sleep is almost impossible. Let me give you an example. Some people say, no, we just drink a cup of coffee and then go straight to bed and sleep just fine. Sure, a lot of us experience that, but the truth is, their sleep isn't really restful or steady at all. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone is the same. Coffee affects people differently. For example, Arabic coffee definitely affects you differently than American coffee because of an enzyme released by the liver. This really varies from person to person. Thirdly, there's a chemical that builds up in the brain called adenosine. This stuff, my dear friend, is what makes you feel sleepy. When caffeine enters the body, it creates a barrier that stops this chemical from reaching its target, but it still keeps accumulating nonstop. So when this chemical finally piles up and breaks through that barrier, you suddenly get hit with a strong wave of sleepiness and you enter a state called, now you know why coffee might affect you, but not your friend. It's because your friend might be different from you. And that's not the only reason. One of these things, my dear friend, is back in the day, if we go back in time, people used to go to sleep as soon as it got dark. But nowadays, in this era of progress and development, the light bulb changed that whole natural system. You see, our nervous system can no longer tell the difference between day and night. During the day, sunlight is present, and at night, we turn on the lights. So our brain or biological clock can't figure out the right time to sleep like it used to back in the day. And imagine having these lights on in the evening, it makes it harder for the hormone that helps you sleep to be released. Also, the colder the room temperature gets, you fall asleep faster because your body is sensitive to temperature and it helps release the sleep hormone. So turn on the AC at least an hour before going to bed, so when you enter the room, it's already cool and ready for real sleep. Early work hours always make you sleep less than the normal daily amount. So if your shift starts super early, try to go to bed early, my friend. If your work starts at 6, you should be in bed by 8. For these exact reasons, the World Health Organization considers lack of sleep a widespread problem in industrial cities like the US, Japan, and others. That's why they have higher rates of physical and mental illnesses. Because of these stories and many others, scientists around the world, doctors and researchers, including Matthew, the author of this book, actually tell their patients to sleep so much that they write it as a prescription. Imagine getting a prescription that says, "Please, my dear friend, get some sleep." Seriously, the prescription is written like that. They're not giving you sleeping pills, no. It says you must sleep well because sleep aids often have really bad side effects. So natural sleep is what matters, my friend, and that's our goal today. If you don't sleep, you'll start feeling damage in your life you never noticed before. We already went over some quick harms of sleep deprivation. Let's find out what actually controls our sleep. There are two things that decide when we sleep and when we wake up: the circadian rhythm and adenosine, which we talked about a bit ago. The circadian rhythm is basically a signal coming from your body's biological clock that sets a 24-hour cycle telling you when to sleep and when to wake up. But it doesn't stop there. It also controls your favorite times to eat and drink, as well as your mood and emotional changes. This happens regardless of night and day or the environment around us. I want to tell you about an experiment, my dear friend, that proves we have a biological clock inside us. A professor and his assistant decided to isolate themselves for a certain period to study the body's biological clock. They stayed together for 32 days, bringing all the necessary supplies like food and water. After completing the 32 days, they made some important discoveries. One key finding was that their sleep duration in the cave hardly changed, it stayed close to 9 hours. Their waking hours ranged between 12 to 16 hours, which is the normal pattern. Also, after sunset, the levels of this hormone rise, acting like alerts or signals, getting ready for bed, and then as soon as the sun comes up, it stops. That's exactly what happens to us when we travel and our schedules get messed up and our sleep gets all out of whack. Matthew, the author of this book, went through this on one of his trips. He was flying back from San Francisco to England, and of course, there's about an 8-hour difference between the city and the country. The thing is, Matthew was used to his biological clock telling him it was bedtime in California because it was 1 a.m. there, but in London, it was 9 a.m. That's what messed with his sleep and how he performed all day. The idea of adjusting to a new time zone is usually pretty tough. So, what if I told you there's a way you can use or follow to help when your travel schedule gets messed up? It depends on the direction you're heading. But if it's a trip, why is that? Does the travel direction really matter? Well, after Matthew and his friends tried it out and even calculated the distances between countries and their stays precisely, it turns out this idea is actually true. Traveling east makes it harder for you compared to going west, meaning you'll need to sleep earlier than usual if you're heading east. The important thing is, for us travelers, this is something we might experience, but only very temporarily. But the employees who work on planes and have different shifts, after long studies done on these people whose working hours are always irregular, they discovered two alarming results about their health. First, parts of their brain that control learning and memory shrink and decrease in size over time. Second, they're more prone to forgetfulness. Other studies also said they might be at risk of serious and various illnesses. From what we've heard, I guess we're starting to realize the value of sleep more. But seriously, how can someone really know if they actually slept? Have you ever heard anyone ask, like, "Hey guys, did I actually fall asleep?" I'm telling you, it depends on two things. Sure, some senses stay kinda active when you're falling asleep, like your sense of smell or hearing, but only a tiny bit. Your awareness of what's going on around you pretty much disappears. You don't really know what happened, who got up, who's still sleeping, or what might be going on. You don't even feel the time passing while you're asleep. That's the first thing. The second is, usually you do fall asleep, but you don't exactly know when. What you do know is when you actually wake up. Of course, it's true that your sense of time or awareness of it might be completely gone while you're asleep, but your subconscious mind keeps running in the background and records the time pretty accurately. Sometimes, this happens when you have an important trip or a really big exam, and you need to wake up early, like at 6 a.m. So, you set your alarm, and this is something that happens to me a lot. The reason is that your subconscious has a good sense of time, my dear friend, but usually you might be asleep until the alarm goes off. And when it rings, as soon as you hit snooze, you experience another kind of time shift, which is time stretching in dreams. So if you happen to dream between the first and second alarm rings, what usually takes just 5 to 10 minutes, you'll notice that the dream you had feels like it lasted for hours. That's the type of time distortion we're talking about. Even sleep itself has different types. Scientists discovered these types based on eye movement during sleep. Sometimes the eyes move quickly, and other times there's no eye movement at all. This is one of the most important things you should know about sleep. When we're asleep, my friend, there are sleep cycles. At the start and end of each cycle, sleep is very light, so you can hear what's around you and are almost aware of what's happening. But in the middle of the cycle, that's when deep sleep happens. Deep sleep periods are times when you don't feel anything at all, or during any type of sleep, you could say there's a phase where your eyes don't move at all. The truth is, dreams happen because this type of sleep has special features that make dreaming really important. Since dreams matter a lot to many people, especially those who always try to interpret every dream they have is dreaming really important, does it actually have benefits? Or is it just random thoughts piling up and passing by? Matthew says, and let's take it step by step in detail first. Didn't we say that dreams happen during the rapid eye movement, REM, sleep phase? This phase has two main functions. These experiences get added to the knowledge already in your brain. For example, when you go through something new during the day, it gets recorded when you sleep, my friend. And just like your memory gets boosted, dreams play another important role. Usually, when you have painful memories, your emotions about them are intense while you're awake. But when you dream about them, the dreams help ease those emotional reactions tied to the painful memories. So over time, you end up forgetting them. Even a doctor mentioned this in one of her articles based on her work with patients. Let me tell you a story that really amazed Maite brings together all these elements like a perfect periodic table. He had this feeling that there was some kind of organizing logic that connected all the elements in the universe. So for years and years, he kept trying to link them together, but unfortunately, he never succeeded. At one point, he tried his best to gather the elements of this table, and after all that struggle, he finally gave in to sleep and fell asleep. But those chemical elements stayed in his mind, and, my friend, he dreamed about them. In the dream, he connected them in a really harmonious way, and they appeared in the amazing form we see today. So, the question is, what exactly did he see in his dream? Like we said, dreams don't just help you be creative. In one of the experiments, participants were asked to solve many problems. After the first session ended, they gave them a break. Some people fell asleep, some didn't. The ones who slept, my friend, absolutely crushed it. In the second session, they solved 3 times more problems than the others. So, my dear friend, never underestimate the power of getting enough rest. The idea of sleeping just 6 hours is kind of like animals sleeping with half their brain. Because of their environment, some animals really do sleep with half their brain on, while we usually sleep with our whole brain except in rare cases. Like when we stay in a new hotel, the new surroundings and different bed make us sleep with half a brain. That's why sometimes sleep can be annoying and disturbing. So, is there any living creature in this universe that deals with this? The answer is yes, my dear friend. And this is exactly why the US military spent tens of thousands just to learn about it. It's called the strange daybird. They found out it has the ability to fight its biological clock to overcome sleep. Of course, this ability only shows up when absolutely necessary for survival. To develop or train a soldier who can fight without sleeping, they actually studied this bird and tried to get some of its genes. But the genes of this bird were super rare. There's a lot of info in the book about it. If you want, I can send you more details to read, but I hope I've at least covered the really important info that will change how you see sleep. Try to take care of it, make it a priority, and as much as possible, aim to get a solid 8 hours of sleep every night, because interrupted sleep is a whole different story. I'm sure you know plenty of people who struggle a lot with sleep issues, so if you know someone like that, share this video with them. If you found this info helpful, thanks for listening, and as always, I really appreciate your valuable time.